and the insurance companies don't have enough money to pay out all the claims and they go under. The insurance companies go under. You can't get a mortgage without insurance. It just becomes this huge housing crisis where home values could plummet. Yeah, Florida, according to I Really Want to Know podcast, says Florida has a serious insurance problem. We're one bad storm away from a crisis down here in Florida. That is true. That is true. Earlier last year, I was asked by Politico to give a Black Swan event. They were like polling all this economists on the Black Swan events that we should be worried about. These are like the low probability but very catastrophic things that could happen. And I talked about the scenario where you have a catastrophic catastrophic hurricane that hits Florida. Maybe you have multiple storms. Maybe you have a catastrophic storm hitting Florida at the same time. They're devastating wildfires on the West Coast, and the insurance companies don't have enough money to pay out all the claims, and they go under. The insurance companies go under. You can't get a mortgage without insurance. It just becomes this huge housing crisis where home values could plummet. So not fun to think about, but definitely something that is not off the table. It could happen. The insurance industry does not have enough money to withstand multiple catastrophic disasters all at once, and neither does FEMA. So yeah, that's a risk. It's definitely a risk. There's an article in the New York Times about all the skyscrapers getting built in Miami. Miami's skyline is getting super tall by Daniela Gorney. And basically what this article is talking about is there's been a ton of real estate development happening in Miami, which on the one hand makes sense. As this article points out, is easier to build these big towers in a place like Miami than it is in California because of the regulations that are in California that are not present in Florida. During the pandemic, a lot of people moved to Miami, especially wealthy people who wanted to move there, not just for the lifestyle and the beaches, but also for the lack of an income tax. And so Miami is kind of popping off, but all these towers getting built, the climate scientists have concerns because they're being built to code for what is code currently. But what happens when those codes become outdated because the climate has changed? This article talks about hurricanes and how hurricane wind speeds in Florida can reach like 140 miles per hour. Miami itself hasn't been hit by a major hurricane, though, since 1998, Hurricane Andrew. So a lot of these buildings haven't actually gone through the most intense hurricanes that they will probably have to endure. This article also talks about how Miami is mostly limestone, and limestone is notoriously hard to build on. It's porous. You have to build deeper to get a high tower. This article also talks about how the foundation shifts every time there's new construction. The foundation underneath it kind of shifts because if you have one building going up, it like jostles the limestone. I guess I'm not like a civil engineer, and it makes potentially buildings close by that were built for the sediment, the land that was there when they were built. The land has changed because of all of the construction that's happening. It'll be really interesting to see what happens to Miami as climate change evolves. Like the fact that there's so much money pouring into real estate in Miami, it's like it has this like safety in numbers effect. Like you can't let all of that real estate fail, right? If there's so much investment in Miami, the chances of there being further investment to protect that real estate goes up. If it was just one tower, one investor all on their own, they might be out of luck. But since there are so many investors and so many developments happening, they have more resources to pool in order to invest in better infrastructure to make Miami more resilient to climate change. So I think that's like where I see things going. I think in the future, we will see these kind of islands in Florida of real estate development where real estate is protected against the impacts of climate change because there's so much value to protect. But in the other parts of Florida where there isn't as much value, those might not get protected the same way that Miami ends up getting protected. Miami might become a city like Venice, kind of a floating city where you have these huge towers in the surrounding area. Sea level is allowed to rise, but time will tell, but it's certainly interesting to watch.